Hello, my name is Matteo and this is my via lap at Road Atlanta. Alright, and there it was. 150, 118.9. It was not the best of laps out there, of course. There was much I could do, but having a fast lap is not the purpose of my videos. I want that everybody to be able to repeat this lap and to actually improve it, because the point of this video is not how to lap quickly, because there will be weather coming in. You actually got a 2-3 seconds difference between different kind of weather and grip levels and etc. So what I want to talk about instead is what to do mentally, almost philosophically, in order to gain a good lap time, whatever the condition is. If it's hot, if it's cold, if there's much or less grip, you know what to do. So you want to tinker your performance on the track and before the turns in order to hit the marks, hit the spots, and get on with a good lap. So probably in the future, and when you will drive and when there will be more grip, when it will be less cold than this or when it will be hotter, um, you will find yourself driving differently from what I'm doing. So I'm not suggesting you guys you have to copy what I'm doing. I want you guys to understand uh, what you have to look for. What is that you have to search for in order when you're building up your lap time. So that's why the actual lap time is not that important. Okay, so technical stuff first. This was a official time trial. This is 2018 season 3. You can see here 26 degrees of air, 41 of track, and it's partly cloudy, a bit of wind, blah blah blah. I don't really care, but I know that maybe in the future you want to see how you're doing, if you're doing something wrong or whatever. I'm using my own setup here. I'm not using a VRS setup because I found this time it was not that comfortable to drive with. So I had the setup that I prepared for myself during the last season. So if you see that I'm doing something that you are not able to do, maybe it's you or maybe it's the setup. So I've seen that Atlanta is very not very, but actually a bit setup dependent. So it might seem that you will want to adjust the differential or just the wing, or take care of a bit of the rake. And a thing that I've noticed is that I usually run with the car very low, so it's like 15.5 on the front, or maybe 16, because I don't want it to bottom out. On this track, I'm almost at 17, because otherwise, on the curbs, these curbs here are killer. They're very tall. So if you go over the curbs, and especially on turn 5, the one with the huge curb on the right, we'll get there. Especially there, you will find, if you follow during the replay with the camera tools, if you put the camera on the ground and check your back, you will see that you will bottom out a lot if you go over that curb. So I didn't want to risk to screw up a race, because I screwed up one corner and then I spun out because the car bottomed out. So I went out of my way and just brought the car all the way up to 17, 16.8, 16.5, something like that in the front, and it was 30 something in the back. So it's a pretty high car, and this is in order to uh, ride the curbs just a little bit. You don't want to overdo that. So another thing that I wanted to say is that Road Atlanta is more about survival than racing, unless you're very good, and you're very good at it. You will see that it's very unlikely from, for example, Phillip Island, or even Monza, or a Spa. These are all tracks that when you get the rhythm, when you get the pace, you can keep the car in. It's not that difficult. But on Road Atlanta, you will see it's full of blind corners, and because of this, but that's just my very personal opinion. I think it's an unfair track, and it's probably one of my most hated tracks. And this doesn't mean that I don't enjoy driving there. It's just that I feel it very unfair, because you have to rely on memory, rely on your ability to visualize the turns that you cannot see, and it's very, very tricky, and everything is quite dangerous on this track, and I'm very glad I get to experience it in VR and not in real life, because I would really freak out. Um, so my suggestion for the races: go for the survival. Don't try to push, don't or over push. Actually, of course you have to drive, but try to be careful. If you see there's someone that's trying aggressively to overtake you, just let him go. He will probably crash in the next 2 or 3 laps, because this track is so difficult. You cannot just be that aggressive. So keep your head cool and try to get to the end without screwing up too much, and try to really feel the feedback coming from the car. Um, so yeah, let's start with the lap. Okay, we're getting on to turn 1 here. No, not this one. Okay, turn 1 is the next one. What you want to do, I don't know if I did it correctly here, probably. You want to move the car onto the left side here. You can go here. You won't get a fine, an incident fine from iRacing. You can go over here to have the entry to turn 1 a bit more comfortable. This is a very fast corner. What you want to do here is to brush brake, so you have just to slightly brake. Go down into sixth while the car is turning. You voluntarily let the back slide slightly in order to have a better entry point, and then you want to hit the throttle as soon as you get to the apex, or even before that. So you really don't want to lose speed here. So another way that I found out that is quite quick is just shift down to sixth and lift and coast until you get to the apex. So that's another way to do it. If you really struggle, if you see that it's very difficult for you this turn here, um, you cannot you can't screw it, because if you go too much on the inside, there's a tall curb that will make your car bounce, and thus the car will go outside onto the left and then into the wall, because you're going very fast here. You're almost at 200 kilometers per hour. And if you take it not so tight into the apex, you will hit the outside curb, which is also tall, and the car will bounce again, and you risk spinning into the wall or spinning into the truck. So, if you don't feel comfortable with taking this turn, shift down to fifth. Just don't brake, or just touch the brake slightly, so it will help you go down to fifth. And then when you get to the apex, open up the throttle again. The important thing, the objective, is that you get this turn here as fast as you can, and you brake as little as you can, and you open the gas as soon as you can. So that's everything you need to do. So, and that's what exactly what I'm doing here. I'm braking just a little bit, even too much actually, but the car is turning very nicely. And then I hit the throttle even before I get to the apex. Then you see I'm really struggling, at least with my setup, with the aerodynamics. Um, you will get understeer here. There's no way you won't get understeer. Um, so make use of all the track here if you can. This is very important when where to look. So uh, when you get into the turn, so when you're approximately um, here, start looking at the apex. See, I'm turning my head. You look at the apex, and then as soon as you get to the apex, start looking at the exit of the corner where the car should be. And I'm turning my head again. Now, when you're here, and this is the infamous turn 2 and turn 3, those are two very difficult blind corners on the top of a hill. So you will go uphill, hit the two turns, and go downhill again. Kind of like the Lime Rock chicane, which is my number one most hated track ever. Um, I love Lime Rock. I hate the chicane because, again, it's blind, and I think it's unfair, and it's very difficult and dangerous. So before getting into turn 2, you will have to move to the right, but be careful, because you have the pit exit here, because this truck wasn't dangerous enough without having a pit exit going straight into your driving line. So be very much careful here, especially during free practice, because you will find traffic here that will get into your driving line, and they actually have kind of no fault here, because you can't really see the traffic on the inside. Of course, they should use the relative black box, but they have the right to stay here. And if you don't use the whole track, and you get, say, like here instead of all the way down here, you will have a bit of trouble getting to the second apex. So be careful about cars getting out. You will probably want to abort your lap or start braking earlier in order not to spin. So right now you move almost all the way to the right of the track, not all the way, because otherwise you will lose more time. And then you have to prepare to hit the apex on turn 2, which is here. Um, I will, I will, I'll just tell it. I'll just say it. Okay, there's no way, there is no method here for you to quickly learn this section of the track. There isn't. The only way you can do it is by memorizing it and visualizing as you're driving. and that implies muscle memory and photographic memory and all those things. So you have to rehearse, try, uh, put in a lot of laps and try to see where you're at, where you're going, where it is. Try to imagine where the apex is. I've When I first learned this track, I've asked around really other more experienced drivers what was the secret of this corner. So I got some guys telling me, yeah, there's a particular tree that I'm using as a mark. Another one, yeah, you have to look at another tree that is here, and another one, there's some umbrellas here, so you have to head to the yellow or red umbrella. The thing is that if you're not exactly on the same spot every lap, you're kind in the middle of nowhere. So uh, these reference marks, I tried them, and they didn't work for me. So I don't know if they will work for you, maybe. But what I found out, for me at least, that worked the most was just to practice more and more, and then I can just say blindly, haha, sorry for the pun, blindly, where the apex is, and that's it. I don't use any marks here. I just go for it, and you will see that the most difficult thing is not just that you have to know where the apex is. You have to accelerate before hitting the apex, and that implies that you know where the apex is before knowing where it actually is. So really, just try it out. Drive this part here and try to memorize it. It will take time. It will, but if you're patient enough, you will see that you can get really consistent here, and this corner here will really make a difference towards all the other drivers out there that are not as prepared as you. So it's very important to put work onto this section here for safety, because this can completely ruin your race, because if you don't brake straight onto the apex of turn 2, the car will spin onto the left and into the wall. If you don't brake straight or you overuse the curb on the inside of turn 3, the car will spin and go onto the wall on the right. And the best case scenario, if you screw this turn up, is that you take the service road and you will get a time penalty of a couple of seconds. So however you put it, your race is fucked. So just put your time into learning this section of the track here. It will take time, but then it will be satisfying because it will be better than your opponents in this section here. You will be more consistent, you will be more safer, and it will be kind of enjoyable to drive there, because it's a very difficult thing to do, and when you get good at doing something difficult, it gets rewarding, so it becomes funny to drive through there. But before there, it will be frustrating and unfair, because you don't see where you're going, and the best driver is not the one that can drive the car better, but is the one that ran more laps to memorize this section here. So that's why I say it's unfair. But anyway, you're on the right. Let's go back to the corner. You're on the right side of the track. You have to bring the car into the first blind apex. You don't want to miss the apex, because if you miss the apex, you will miss the second apex in turn 3, and this will bring even more trouble. So it's really important that you nail down correctly both apexes, even this one. So you're on the right, you start moving on the left. You can use the pit lane exit lines as a reference for when you want to move inside here. I'll show it again. There's a pit exit. Yeah, it's not a beautiful mark, because it's kind of late, but it's the best you can do. Otherwise, just try to look for the curb. There's okay, there's a curb here, but it's, you have to get here before, so really just memorize it. There's no marks. If you find one, please tell me, because that would be helpful. So you have to reach the apex here, plus or less, when you get to the curb, and then you have to brake in a straight. You can see this. Okay, the VLC is showing is glitching out when I pause, but the wheel is completely straight when I start braking. I brake hard here. You have to go down from sixth to fourth, and you have to do it absolutely in a straight line. You don't want the car to be even slightly out of position, because otherwise you will spin, and this wall here is here to wait for you. So stay straight, hit the brakes hard, go down into fourth. Another important thing to know when you're braking is that, luckily enough, we have this line here, which is super important because it's our gauge mark. This means that you won't start braking here. You have to stop braking earlier than here, but you can use this line here to gauge the level of grip. So if you have to brake earlier, brake later. So from this line here, you try to understand if what you're doing was right. So you brake here, let's say, you see that you overshoot slightly the corner, you overdrive it, so you know that on the next lap you will have to brake earlier, so you will start braking when the line is more farther ahead of you, so that when there's more space. Or maybe you see that you get into the corner too early, and you overshoot the curb on the inside, and you cut the corner, so you know they have to brake a bit later. So the objective for this turn here is to brake in a way that you can open the throttle before you get to the apex, and before you actually see the apex, and this is what this turn is. So I'll show it to you as in with a slow speed. So you see I'm braking, I'm in fourth, and then when I'm on the curb, I'm even using a bit too much of curb in this corner. You don't have to use this much, and this is also why my car is so high on this track, so I can ride the curb without risking to spin. But you can stay a bit more onto the left. You don't have to ride the curb so much, even because you risk very much to take a fine from iRacing here for driving off the track. I've actually overshoot this turn a little bit here because I'm opening the throttle when I'm on the curb. The optimal way would be to start opening the throttle approximately when you're here, so slightly before you start seeing the apex. So plus or less, much or less, when you're here, you want to be able to get back on the throttle. Maybe it's not here, maybe it's here, or maybe it's even here. You just know that the sooner you get back on the throttle, the lower your lap time will be. And while you do this, come on VLC, while you do this, you don't want to overshoot this corner here. So you know you have to stay on the track here. Don't use the curb, because this is very slippery. You see it's round, and you will spin out because you're full throttle and going very fast and turning in. So you want maximum grip from the asphalt, so don't overshoot it. So and another thing, don't ride the curb too much and don't accelerate too much on the curb. Don't go full throttle on the curb because you will spin, of course. And okay, when you're here, you're in the S's. So you want to take the first S here, keep the car onto the left, and then you have another blind corner here. So again, you have to memorize where it is. The cones here can help you because the apex is pretty much here. You don't want to lift. You have to stay down with your foot because this is a very difficult section and dangerous section if you have a car behind, because the car behind will have draft but no place to overtake, and if he's not an experienced driver, he will not know that he has no place to overtake here, so he will try to overtake you. So just keep the foot down, concentrate, hit the mark, hit the apex here, then you have to move a little earlier and go back to the left and hit the second apex here. You can ride these two apexes a little bit. Just try to keep the car as straight as possible. Then you get onto this huge turn here. This is scary, legitimately scary, this turn here, because it's another race killing sorry, race killing turn here, because it's slippery, it's slightly upslope, and it turns into you. So you will hit the apex thinking that is the apex, but that's not the apex, because the turn is getting narrower on the outside. So what you want to do is that there is a curb here with a kink going inside. So this is like the tangent here, the apex, the tangent here, and you calculate the distance between this kink here and the end of the curb, and you start braking pretty much around half of that distance. You have to, I would say that in this case here, that's at least how I found myself better. You want to keep your braking mark as steady as possible right here, and then you modulate the brakes. So if you have more grip, just brake less. If you have less grip, just brake more. But try to keep the braking point always the same. So you get here, you hit the brakes. So this was a very hot track, so I hit the brake very hard. If you're on a colder track, you hit the brakes less. You go down into fifth, you hit this apex here, and you go into fourth. You stop braking, you stop accelerating, or you can just slightly, if you didn't overshoot the corner, but actually the faster way is to get faster on the inside and wait for the car coasting and then opening when the car is straight. But anyway, if you can do it, just give it a little bit of a throttle just to start having some traction, and then as soon as the car is straight, go for it and open it up all the way down. But the very important thing here is to keep the apex speed high. So please, VLC, can we see this part here? Thank you. So you get in, you brake, fifth, fourth at the apex. Don't ride the curb if your setup is not made to ride the curb, because this curb can kill you. And start hitting the throttle just a little bit to get some traction. I've seen some fast guys using the outside curb. You can ride this curb, you won't get a fine from iRacing, but it's slippery because of course it's curb, it's not asphalt. So you will lose time and the car will bounce and blah blah blah. So maybe you don't want to ride it that much. Maybe you just want to just slightly cut it in, exiting the corner if you really need to, but otherwise stay away from this curb and you will be better. So when the car is straight, please VLC, Okay, when the car is straight, you hit the throttle and leave this turn forever. Um, okay, now here, this turn here, you have to, it's a fast right-hander, and you want the aerodynamics to do its job. So you have two lines here that are really helpful. First line, you prepare yourself. Second line, which is here, you start braking. Again, you gauge the distance here, so brake earlier like I did here if it's very hot with not much grip. If it's colder, you can brake almost on the line, and if your setup is pretty loose, you can really brake on the line. You brake quickly, you're more like pumping, and you go down to fifth and down to fourth onto the apex, and really let the car go fast and use the aerodynamics to keep the car down. So, and you can brush brake and trail brake a little bit to help the car turn in, as I did. So fourth, again, because VLC screwed up. Fifth, fourth on the apex, and then you're out. Now, there's another damn blind corner here, it's the hairpin. And on top of that, um, there are no braking marks. There's nothing. There is no 100-meter sign. There's no lines on the ground. There's no kinks. There's no dirt, no trees, nothing. The only thing we have, or at least that I have to understand where I should brake, is this trailer here, this RV here. So I'm on VR on the Oculus, and when I see that the trailer has disappeared from my peripheral vision while keeping the head straight, I know that I have to start braking. This is another tricky corner. You can make or lose more than half a second per lap in this corner here. So maybe one lap you will hit it, and the lap after that you will make just a little mistake, and you will lose half a second. So you really want to uh, concentrate on this turn here, even because it's another turn that it's blind, thank you, and it turns into itself, thank you again, and there's no marks. So what? How worse can it be? So you start braking. You want to get down into second. You want to hit the apex. Not don't use the curb. I think I've used it on this lap, but it would be better not to use it because it's faster. And try to get back on the throttle, just like halfway down, not all the way down, before you hit the apex, because that will help the engine keeping up with the RPM, and you will exit the turn faster, and then you have a very long straight here. So, and it's very easy to attack on this straight here. So you really want to exit this corner as fast as you can. So you start braking down into second, slightly trail braking, and then thank you VLC for this glitch, and then um, even before the apex, I'm back on the throttle. So it would be even better if you're not using the curb, so you're like here, because at that point you can really open up quicker. But this time I went a bit too far with the trail braking, but it's okay. And then as soon as you can, you start opening up. Be careful, because you see here the corner is closing in. It's not going out, it's closing in, so you have to keep turning. And if you open too early, the car will spin because you're turning all the way in, and you don't have grip left to do both. So look here with your sight, try to find the place where the car will be, and use all the track that you have available to exit this corner, because the more track you will use, the more throttle you can use, and you can open earlier without spinning. So don't make the mistake of turning in and then you see that you're slow enough, you can go inside. Don't go inside, because otherwise you will spin. Go all the way out on the outside. Don't use the curb, because this is pretty much a staircase here, and the car will bounce. so you will lose a lot of time. So don't use this. Just stay on the track, open the throttle, and get onto the super long straight. Try to use the shortest way here, which is left here, then here on the center, and then on the right. Use as less steering wheel as possible, because you want the wheels to be free as much as they can, to have all the grip available to accelerate. But if you're in the race and there's another car behind you, be quick after the hairpin about choosing your own side, your own lane, because I've seen people staying in the middle of the track with the car behind, and the car behind have has draft. So that's dangerous, because you don't know where the other car will go. You will at one point just throw your car into one of the two spaces, and you don't know exactly which one, so it will be forced. So you're the car in the front. You have the responsibility not of the overtake, but of choosing your own lane. So you want to get the inside on the first corner of the chicane. Get all the way to the left. Make it clear. Just exit the hairpin, stay to the left, go to the left, and then stay to the left all the way here until you get to the second turn kink. Or you want to have the inside of the second corner of the chicane, then exit the hairpin, get the car straight, and move all the way to the right quickly. Of course, watch your mirrors, but make it clear where you're going to the car behind. Be safe, because um, you can defend on the chicane, but you can't really prevent people from overtaking you. It's a very long straight, and there will be draft, and you cannot defend on the straight. That's blocking, and that's very illegal. So the only thing you can do is choose your lane, hoping to get the best exit you can from this corner, and hoping that your opponent behind you had a worse exit than you, because even if he had just the same exit as you, and he's within half a second from you, he will be faster than you due to the draft, and you can do nothing about it. So just sit tight, choose your lane. Probably the inside is the best place to be in order to defend if it comes down to a braking challenge at the chicane. Uh, but otherwise, you will probably just get passed into the straight. So don't make it difficult. There can be a three-way. Just choose your lane quickly, and then when you get here, you move to the right. If you're alone, remember to leave one car and a half if there's another car on the inside here, if you're moving, so you will be in the middle of the track. And when we get to the braking zone here, we got a 200-meter mark here with a line on the ground. This is very helpful. And then we get to the 100-meter mark with its nicely line here. Plus, there is another line. Now you can't see it, but it's pretty much here. So what you want to do in this corner here is never brake before the first line, and you probably won't be able to brake after the second line. So of course, the closer you can brake to the second line and still hitting the inside apex on the chicane here, the better, the faster you'll be, because you really want to keep the foot down as much as you can. But if you feel like you're not able to do it, and you're overshooting the corner, and you're sacrificing the exit on the second part of the chicane, start braking earlier. Um, Still, this is setup skills, weather dependent, grip dependent. So again, you have to gauge where to brake basing your inputs on the last lap. Um, so you really have to make your own decision here. And if there's an overtaking battle here, this is basically the spot number one for overtaking the whole track. And if you're overtaking or defending and you're on the left side of the track, don't make the error of getting into the braking zone, hugging the left line. Don't do that, because otherwise you will find yourself here. I will come back. You will find yourself onto the inside here, and you will either have to slow a lot in order to make the corner, or you will just overshoot it and dive bomb it, cutting the way off for the other car. So what you want to do instead is, if you're on the left side, squeeze the other car on the inside, but still leave half a car of distance between you and the other car, or leave anyway, just leave distance for the other car to be anyway 1.5 cars from the white line. If you don't see the other car, you can slightly put pressure on the other car by putting your car here, because the other car will know that they won't have wiggle space, so they will have to go straight, and there will be a bit of a psychological pressure. But don't overdo it, because it's really dangerous otherwise. The cars can lose the balance on the braking zone, and he can hit you. So really make your careful decisions. It's better if you leave space. But anyway, don't go onto the left side. Stay onto the outside as much as you can. So when you get into the braking zone, you will be paired up, and you will have the chance of getting the inside of the first corner in a better way, with a better line. Of course, remember that unless you've outbraked him, you cannot use the whole truck. So when you get here, you cannot go like this, okay, and go onto the outside and then onto the inside of the other turn of the chicane. If you're paired up here, you have to brake and get onto the inside and really here hug the left line. And when you're turning on the second part of the chicane, you have to leave 1.5 cars of space from the curb for the other car to be. So you will find yourself turning here. So go easier and brake more, because you will have less space. And of course, if you're on the outside, it's the same. So you won't have you will not turn into the apex here, but your apex will be like here. So you will have to go like this, and then hug the curb, and then outside at the end of the chicane. But unless you're actually battling, if you're alone, there's the first line where you gauge the grip, and then you start braking really hard. I'm almost 100%. I'm really kicking my brake pedal here. You will have to go down from... Oh, another thing that's really important. Remember that if you're drafting and overtaking, you will be faster. You will be faster than on a normal lap. So you will have to brake earlier. Remember that. Otherwise, you will find yourself crashing or going out or losing the back. So be very careful. Remember that if you're drafting, you will be faster. So you will have to brake earlier. But anyway, I'm kicking the brake here. I'm all the way down from 7th down to 3rd. And leave a little bit of space before start downshifting, because it will help the engine getting down. Get a nice rhythm, so you don't have to double click the downshift, because you went into rev protection. You know, if you downshift too early, the car won't let you downshift. It will protect the engine. So really try to find your rhythm here, because having a good solid downshift here is half the job. The other half of the job is the brake work. So you want to brake almost all sorry, almost all the way down when you're into seventh, when you're fast, and then um, the slower, come on, the slower, come on, eat that, come on, you can do it. Okay, so this, I'll show you, I'll show it to you again, maybe. Okay, you can do it, VLC. What's the problem, buddy? You can do it, buddy. Come on. So frustrating. Whatever. So the slower you go, oh, here it is. The slower you go, the less you want to brake. So I'm braking hard here, and as I go down on the straight line, I'm talking here, so this is not even trail braking, but as you go down with the speeds, you have to go down with the brake, because you will lose aerodynamics. That will it will keep the car nailed to the ground. So you lose speed, you lose aerodynamics, so you have to brake less. Otherwise, you will lose the back. And then you have to hit the apex here. You can even cut this curb, because this is a gentle curb. Thank you, Road Atlanta, for a gentle curb. Um, and you can trail brake into here, open the throttle, but watch out, because now you have the weight transfer problem, and you have a differential lock problem, because if you're accelerating, the more you accelerate, the more the car will want to keep on going this way. While if you want to go this way, actually, so you have to lift a little bit in order for the car to go onto the other side. And as soon as, come on, as the car is on the other side and the weight transfer is done, then you can open. And when you get onto this curb, come on, onto this curb here, this is actually true for many curbs riding in the Formula Renault. So if you're riding a curb, and if you don't feel confident with the level of grip that you get on the curb, and maybe you've seen on the free practice that the car might spin while you get on the curb, but you know that you will need to get onto the curb, then don't go full throttle. Just lift a little bit. This is just a tiny bit. Just lift a little bit. Let the car ride the curb, and as soon as you're down the curb and you're not bouncing, then you can open. You can open again. See? Okay. And another important thing that you have to do here. Let me go back to full speed. Otherwise, VLC will get angry again. Exactly. Okay. Now it's not showing anything. Please. Okay, now when you're here, it's very important that first you look at the apex, and just before as you hit the apex, start looking at on the outside, because this again will make your car possibly spin if you don't use the whole track in your full throttle, because you're turning tight in here. So you see, I'm moving my head to watch this side of the track here, so I will make the car go here. Even if you think you have the grip to do it, even if you think the grip is enough, just go all the way here, because you don't want to risk it. There's nothing to gain here, and there's so much to lose, because if you lose the car here, you won't get it back, because you're upslope, and there's a wall here that is waiting for you, and there's a tunnel you have to go through. So just use the whole track. Remember that. Just try to get the car all the way outside, because you will get the maximum grip, and then you can really keep your foot down. And now we're on the last corner, and guess what? It's another blind corner. Yay! And this is easier because the foot is down. You don't have to lift, you don't have to brake. Look at here. Come on. Look at here. Place your car under this flag banner. What the hell is that? And remember that the truck after the hill is going right. So prepare to go right and keep the car under this flag here. And there you go. You're out of this corner. At this point, I've seen a lot of people going all the way to the left and then hitting on the right, but you don't really need to do that. You're wasting space and time. You don't have a Formula One car, so you just kind of cut this trajectory, kind of, not too much. Of course, the objective is to keep the wheels turning freely without locking the differential, so they can have maximum acceleration and such. But pretty much you can do this. And be careful also, because this is an overtaking place, and the overtake or the counter overtake, if you've outbraked your opponent on the beginning of the chicane, can be here. So you will naturally come into clash on this part here. I strongly disagree with people that want to overtake here, because it's very dangerous, and this is a gap that it's going to disappear. It's a fake gap because there's no track here. The track is going like this, and here you got the grass and you have the pit entry. So don't overtake here, just take it easy, follow the car, and maybe you can overtake onto the inside here. This is a very nice spot, this last corner here, to overtake. So if you can force your way into this side here to overtake, and the other car can go on the outside, you can both be at full throttle, because you don't even need to lift, and you're on the inside, and you will have a shorter way, and you can really do a very easy overtake here. If you don't make it, you will be stuck behind this car, having heavy turbulence and understeer problems on turn 1 here, and it will be a mess, because you will have to make pretty tough choices. So it will be like, do I follow the car and risk understeering out of the track just to stay close? Do I go alongside him and force him to brake earlier to get into this corner so I can get the corner? Do I follow, but then you get turn 2 and 3 that it's just a mess, and there's no much space to overtake there. So the best possible way would be to overtake here or on the braking zone before the chicane. Otherwise, it's going to be a problem if you're much faster, or maybe you just want to lift a little bit more, get out of the turbulence, and regain your time during the lap, and then attack again on the straight. So yeah, and the finish line. So this was my lap Road Atlanta. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope this video helped you hate it a little bit less. Alright, enjoy, be safe, and see you on the track. Bye guys.